guys. I want to talk to you about a killer deal you can get at Home Depot right now. I don't know how long they're going to keep these deals going, but I needed a new high torque gun. The one I've used for a while, I left that behind at the ice house. I get that thing on the weekends, but in my 9 to 5-er, these big machines I'm working on now, I need a high torque. Now, I looked on the trucks, and I looked at Home Depot, and I looked at DeWalt. Everywhere I priced a high torque gun, they were looking tool only around, $329 and up. Now, I've had a Ridgid octane half-inch, the mid-torque, for quite a while. And, I had this exact same Ridgid High Torque over at the plant. Now, this thing comes with 2 4-amp-hour batteries and a charger for $299, plus you get a free tool. And if you go in and look at the free tools you can actually get a tool-only mid-torque to go with it. That gives you 2 half-inch impact wrenches, the high torque and the mid-torque, plus 2 4-amp-hour batteries for $300. Now, I added the rubber boots and stuff like that to this thing. I forget what it came out to out the door. It was like $367. Nothing on the truck was going to beat that. I happened to have a couple of gift cards for the Home Depot, plus my Home Depot credit card, and I just couldn't pass it up. Well, let's take a look at this thing. Well, here we go. Now, keep in mind, once you take all this stuff out of the bag, it's never going to go back in like that, so don't even try. But I think that goes for just about everything. Same old Ridgid charger that you get with everything else. It's nice and compact. I've got one of these sitting in the power drawer in my Cornwell box. Now it looks like I'm going to have 2 of them in there. I think I've got 3 total. It's a good, quick charger. It charges a battery pretty fast. I've had good luck with these max output 4-amp batteries. I've got 2 of them. I think I got 3 2-amp-hour batteries, maybe 4. But I've never had any complaints about Ridgid's batteries. Now, I know they have some that have a different cell in them. The old octanes used to have a different cell that would give you a little more juice, but battery life on these seems to be pretty good, unless you're using them in the cutoff wheel. That kind of wears them down real fast. And then, for some reason, my octane mid-torque, as much as I love that gun, the light doesn't work on the little light trigger anymore. It stays on all the time. Now, I think somebody dropped it, and I don't want to send it in. And since I don't have another half-inch electric aside from the Ryobi, I don't want to take it apart and risk messing something up just to disconnect that light or fix the trigger. But now, since I've got the other mid-torque coming, I can bring that thing home, and maybe we can go in there together and fix that light. But for now, let's talk about this guy. Now, you got your batteries, you got your charger. Comparing this to the Milwaukee, the business end up here, this is all pretty much the same. Now, supposedly, it's got the same brushless motor. The anvil, the cone, all this, it's shaped almost identical. And I'd bet that it's pretty much the same in here. I think Torque Test did a test on this thing, and they got within 20-30 pounds of the Milwaukee out of it. I mean, it's a beast. And I know I've put this thing on plenty of 5/8, 3/4, and even some 1-inch fine thread bolts, big compressor crank bolts. I've run 2 3/8, 2 7/16, and 2.5-inch sockets on this thing with an adapter. It doesn't skip a beat. I mean, it's smooth. It makes a lot of torque. It doesn't vibrate your teeth out. The grip is uber comfortable, and it's got different texture checkering in different spots. It's nice, and it's not too tacky, but it's got some tack to it, some stick. It's not going to move around in your hand. If anything were ever going to break, I would say this would be your weak spot, but truthfully, it's pretty thick down there, thicker than you would think. It's definitely made out of a tougher material than, say, the green guy, the Ryobi. Maybe not as good as the Milwaukee, but I know that the Ridgid stuff is sold under another name in other countries, and it's a lot of people's flagship line and under that name. I can't think of what it is right now. But I've had good luck with mine. I've always liked their line ever since the first big giant angle grinder I got from them about 10 years ago. With that 7 and 9 inch. You know, it hadn't skipped a beat, and it lasted through all kinds of abuse. So, I kind of like it. For the price of a tool-only Milwaukee gun, I got the mid-torque, the high torque, a couple of batteries, and I got the rubber boot. Let's put the boot on here, see what she looks like. Well, now there she is, ready to rock and roll. I like the way the cover fits. It actually fits nice and snug. You can tell it was made for this specifically. It does not cover up any of the ventilation holes, so the motor's going to breathe nice. You're going to hear the torque oozing out of that thing. The light's nice and bright. The trigger's unobstructed. The switch is in a nice spot, easy to get to. Looks like it's in auto mode. And you got 1, 2, 3 in auto, and I think the auto stops once it senses a load. You know, like for me, if I'm doing a blade swap or a blade flip and I'm going to torque those bolts down, this is good for me because it'll stop before they get real tight and I can torque them down evenly. Whereas if you have it on 3, you're just rattling them down, and by the time you get the torque wrench on there, you're already over. It's just going to click. Now, it does give you a spot to put the clip on there, but I don't know who the hell would want to wear this thing around their waist. It is a bubba. It is heavy. Now, one cool thing about the Ridgid, those batteries lock in there nice and positive. You are not going to drop a battery out of this thing, and you're probably not going to drop one by mistake. You've got to push those buttons in pretty far to get that thing to slide off. And it's straightforward. Anyway, there you have it. There is the high torque. I'll show you guys the mid torque when she shows up. And expect some videos of this guy in action real soon. Thanks for looking.